Today, let's talk about mantras again. I want to share with you 2 mantras I think you should start practicing as soon as possible before it's too late. Here's why. Welcome back to Choosing Gratitude. I'm Karen from ChoosingGratitude.net, and on this channel, I share with you tools and resources to help you manifest your dream life. So if you're new here, make sure you click the subscribe button and the notification bell and start to manifest your dream life by choosing gratitude. A couple of weeks ago, I posted a video about 3 mantras I practice daily, and I'll put that video link up there if you haven't seen it. And after posting that video, I also recorded 3 videos of me chanting each individual mantra, and I posted them as my weekly meditation. And I received some amazing feedback from the Gratitude Tribe about this practice, and many of you told me that you feel an immediate energy shift once you start chanting with me. And some of you are telling me that your health has improved, or that your life has transformed, that you see changes in your life already. That's really great. But I also got questions like some fearful questions. Some people are saying, well, they sound so weird, and once I start chanting, I feel scared. Should I still continue chanting? So today, I want to clear up these questions a little bit before we move into the 2 very important mantras I want to introduce to you today. So first of all, if you don't know what a mantra is a capsule of divine energy, like I explained before. Usually, these mantras are passed down from generation to generation. They're written in some kind of ancient language. That's why they sound so weird, because these are the languages you don't understand. Actually, how mantra works is very similar to subliminals. If you have listened to subliminals, usually you just hear like a music file or some kind of a natural sound, right? But the true message of the subliminal is not the music, okay? You can actually remove the music and the subliminal will still work, because the subliminal is all about the subliminal message embedded within the music. And mantras are very similar in that way. So it's not about the weird ancient words they use. It's really about the meaning that is embedded within those words. And there is actually a purpose why these words are so weird and not understandable, because that way, when you chant these words, guess what? The divine message hidden behind these words are passed into your subconscious mind, and they can bypass your conscious gatekeeper. We all have a conscious gatekeeper, which is, our egoistic belief system. For example, if you grow up believing that money doesn't grow on trees, you can, chant this 100 times a day, like I am rich, I am rich. I bet you're not going to be rich, because you have this belief system that says money doesn't grow on trees. That's why we need to bypass that gatekeeper and influence your subconscious mind. That's why, we use subliminals and mantras. To me personally, mantras are even more powerful than subliminals, because when you chant a mantra, you are creating a direct relationship with the divine. You're connecting to the universe, to all that is, through some great work created by masters centuries and centuries ago. That's why I think now it's time for me to introduce you to these mantras, even though they seem a little weird. And if you have a religious belief that says, these mantras are evil, they are not from a divine source, if you really don't feel comfortable about it, that's okay, because there are so many other ways to connect to your God. If you want to try it, give it 30 days and do it 10 minutes a day. You are going to feel a shift. And all the mantras I introduced to you are very safe. They've been used for centuries and centuries, and they're truly from the highest energy of the divine. So I'm really not worried that they're from the devil or something. But, definitely exercise your own judgment when it comes to this. I want you to see these mantras as affirmations on steroids. What does that mean? We all feel okay about reciting affirmations, right? No matter what religious belief you come from, you know that, when you speak affirmations, you strengthen your belief, you can, change your belief, and it helps you reprogram your subconscious mind and help you move into the right direction. So these mantras, even though they are mysterious and they're from spiritual masters, don't see them as something like a creepy, they're not, because they're really just an ancient affirmation chanted by spiritual masters. They're just written in ancient languages, and most of these mantras, when I introduce them to you, I will tell you exactly what they mean. You will see that they don't really mean any harm, and I don't want you to see this as something creepy, something scary, but rather it's a very, very, very powerful affirmation. And you can choose to use it or not use it, but it's really nothing more than a super, super, super powerful affirmation that helps you connect to the universe, to your divine light within. In my last video, I talked about 3 mantras that I use daily, and all 3 mantras are amazing. They really helped me to manifest my personal dream life. I want to admit that my focus is actually not on manifesting my own dream life, because I feel that my life is good enough. I really have pretty much attained everything I wanted to attain, and I really don't need more. I feel like I'm very content with what I have, and I am really more concerned about our collective destiny. When I look beyond this life that I already have, that I'm pretty happy with, I actually see a world that is still in a lot of darkness. I see a lot of people suffering. I see a lot of people struggling. I see a lot of lack, and also people who don't seem to lack material resources, still lacking happiness and fulfillment within. That's why I have been praying more for the world than for myself, because ultimately, the world out there influences every one of us. We're not living in some kind of isolated islands. We're all connected. That's why, my guides have been inspiring me to chant these 2 mantras. These mantras work on clearing karmic debris. We all have karmic debt, or karmic lessons, karmic debris. There are things that we accumulated through our infinite past, not just this lifetime, but infinite past, that they serve as some kind of debt that at some point, they are going to be manifested, and oftentimes they manifest as something not so positive, not so welcomed in our lives, right? And a lot of times it's really hard to explain these things with, your conscious mind. You would say, well, I never attracted that. Well, I never consciously wanted those things. Why did they come to me? And I think this year, 2020, and next year, 2021, we are going to collectively facing a lot of the debt maturity, just having to see the manifestation of our collective karmic debt. So this is really a critical moment for all of us to collectively, pay back our karmic debt, or at least become aware of it, and also, work with the divine to clear your karmic debt, or understand your karmic lessons. And these mantras are so very important, especially in today's world. The first mantra I want to share with you is one from the Hindu tradition, and it's pretty well known if you're from India, but if you're not from that tradition, you may not be aware of this mantra. This mantra is Om Namo Narayanaya. Om basically means all that is. When you chant Om, you're basically becoming one with the entire universe. And Namo means devotion. And a lot of mantras have these words, Om, Namo, So what are you devoting yourself to? Narayanaya is what you are devoting yourself to. So Narayanaya has many different translations. Some say it's a, Hindu god. Other translation says that Narayanaya is basically your divine light within. So when you devote devote yourself to your divine light within, guess what? You're creating a pathway to heaven, right? You're creating a pathway from your egoistic self to your divine self. That's why this mantra is so powerful. You know, when you sit in meditation in silence, chant this mantra for 108 times, you are basically establishing a divine connection to your higher self, to the universe. The second mantra I want to share with you is probably less known unless you practice Zen Buddhism. This is a Zen Buddhist mantra, and it's called Namu Samanda mantra. This mantra is actually preached by the Buddha himself. This is the mantra to clear your karmic debt and avoid misfortune and invoke positive outcomes or attract fortune. So it's all about, you know, turning misfortune into fortune. On this channel, I have talked a lot about the upcoming energy tsunami in astrology. We've talked about how, you know, this metal rat year, according to Chinese astrology, could potentially lead to a lot of chaos and some very, very strong energy. And at this time of turbulence, this mantra, Namo Samanda, is really your lifesaver. So I highly recommend you to learn it and chant at least 3 times a day. It's a little bit long, but it's very, very, very powerful. The way I'm chanting it is actually the Korean version because I have been going to a Korean Zen Buddhist temple for the past 12 years. When I first started practicing Zen, I was with a Japanese school. I learned a different version, and what I'm teaching you today is just the version I've been chanting most recently in the past 10 years. If you come across a different version of this mantra, you can chant that as well. You see that even in chanting throughout history, when a mantra is spread to different cultures, into different languages, they could sound different. I'm sure there's also a Chinese version, and that could sound very different. But why all these versions work? I want you to think about that. So even though the sound is important, you know, it's not about the sound, it's your devotion to that mantra. So when you're chanting it, don't worry so much about whether or not you're doing it perfectly. You're probably not. I'm not doing it perfectly, but you know, when you hold that sincere heart to seek truth, seek your divine light within, guess what? You become one with this mantra. You become one with the universal wisdom. So here's how I chant this mantra these days. Namo Samanda Motanam Abarajihadasa Sadanam Danyata Om Kaka Kae Kae Hom Hom Abara Abara Bara Abara Bara Abara Jita Jita Jiri Jiri Pada Pada Songjiga Shiri Esabaha. It sounds a little bit like a song, right? So instead of listening to some random music, why not sing this song for yourself? Like I said, I will be making a chanting meditation video just with this mantra so we can spend more time doing it because this one is really, really important. So why should you practice these 2 mantras before it's too late? Because we want to practice these mantras so that we don't have to see our karmic debt manifest into some kind of misfortune or disaster or a collective disaster. That's why we're all chanting this together. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next video.